Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today because, look, we are tackling one of the most incredibly frustrating, hair-pulling issues in all of IT administration. We're talking about a broken Windows Hello for Business setup. If you manage a fleet of Windows devices, you've definitely seen this, right? You've got a user whose PIN suddenly stops working, or Windows Hello completely fails to provision. So what do? Well, you search the IT forums, and almost immediately you find the exact same piece of advice repeated over and over and over again.
Just delete the NGC folder and reboot. Okay, stop right there, please. I know it sounds like the Windows Hello equivalent of, have you tried turning it off and on again? But this is actually one of the most destructive things you can possibly do to a machine. It's a massive mistake. So in this explainer, we're going to debunk this incredibly common myth, break down the actual architecture of Windows Hello credentials, and show you exactly what you should be doing instead.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. 1. The terrible IT advice. 2. Inside the NGC container. 3. Why deletion is dangerous. 4. Diagnosing the real problem. 5. The supported credential reset. And finally 6. Automating the fix. Let's jump right into Section 1, the terrible IT advice, a sledgehammer approach. So why does everyone always suggest deleting this folder? Well, to be fair, because it does trigger a reaction. If you take ownership of the NGC folder, wipe its contents, and reboot, Windows will actually rebuild an empty container and re-provision Hello. So it kind of feels like you fixed the issue. But what you're actually doing is taking a giant sledgehammer to a highly complex architecture, and you're creating a massive, invisible mess for system admins down the line. You see, NGC stands for Next Generation Credentials, which was just the internal name for Windows Hello. But if you look closely at Microsoft's explicit documentation, the NGC container is a logical unit used to group related items. It is literally not a physical folder meant to be managed or inspected. The actual key material for a user isn't just sitting in some file you can casually copy. No, it's securely sealed by the Trusted Platform Module, the TPM, or by the Data Protection API, DPAPI. The folder you're seeing in File Explorer, it's just a mirage. It's an access control list protected physical manifestation that ordinary processes can't even open. Long story short, you're not meant to touch it. Moving right along to Section 2, inside the NGC container, the dual services. Okay, if it's not really a folder, what exactly is driving it? Let's dive into the engine room. There are two absolutely critical Windows services that own this container. First up, we've got NGCSV, which displays as Microsoft Passport. This service manages the actual credential and key operations. Second is NGCTNRSV, or Microsoft Passport Container, and this one manages the key storage container itself. So, here's the absolutely crucial point. If either of these services is stopped or disabled, Windows Hello will fail. And here's the kicker. If a service is stopped, randomly deleting physical files from a folder will never, ever solve your problem. You're basically just ripping out the seats while the car's engine remains turned off. Which brings us to Section 3. Why deletion is dangerous. The collateral damage. The collateral damage of this whole sledgehammer approach is honestly catastrophic. Think about it. When you wipe that folder, you don't just delete the broken credential. You destroy the credentials for every single user profile on that device. But wait, it gets worse. Because you bypassed the proper cleanup process, you leave these orphaned public keys just sitting in Microsoft Entra ID and in the user's local directory attributes. These keys now point to a private key on the device that literally no longer exists. On top of that, you permanently break the NTFS ACL ownership, which means the system might not even be able to protect the new container. And if you have a hardware TPM, well, you've just desynchronized the on-disk files from the TPM sealed material. You tried to fix one single user's PIN, and you've effectively just created a brand new, far harder to diagnose failure for absolutely everyone else. Let's do this the right way. Section 4. Diagnosing the real problem. Read before you react. We really have to stop breaking things to fix them, right? Instead of reaching for that sledgehammer, let's look at the Mobile Device Management, or MDM, policies that govern Windows Hello, specifically under the Passport for Work registry key. Now, what's super interesting here is the massive gotcha on the second line, Enable Ping Recovery. Most tenants actually never turn this on, which means it just defaults to 0. And if this is 0 or absent, a broken pen simply cannot be recovered. Period. It requires a completely clean recreate. So if you haven't explicitly set enable PIN recovery to 1 before a user has an issue, there is absolutely no magical recover my PIN option waiting for you in the wings. You just have to reset it. And to even know if you need to reset it, you got to read the user device registration logs. Let's walk through this sequence. It's pretty straightforward once you see it. You might see a warning for Event 360 saying provisioning is blocked, but don't stop there. That is just the consequence. Keep looking down the log until you see Event ID 363. Event 363 is an error that explicitly states the NGC key is missing. That right there, that is your actual finding. That tells you the key genuinely doesn't exist and the credential is for sure broken.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question. If we are absolutely forbidden from deleting the NGC folder, but we've checked the logs, we see Event 363, and we know for a fact the key is genuinely missing, how do we actually fix it?
Section 5. The supported credential reset. Using the scalpel. It is officially time to put away the sledgehammer and pick up the scalpel. The official, Microsoft-supported command to cleanly target this exact problem is beautifully simple. It's just certutil.exe minus deletehellocontainer. But listen closely, because there's a massive catch here. This command must be run in the affected user's own context. Do not run this from an elevated administrator prompt. Seriously. If you run it as an admin, it deletes the administrator's container, not the user's, and the user's problem remains completely untouched. It has to be run as the signed-in user. When we actually compare these two approaches side by side, the difference is just undeniable. On the one hand, you've got the certutil scalpel. It scopes to exactly one user, it is fully supported, it properly talks to EntraID to clean up the old keys, and it never touches your file permissions. On the other hand, you've got the sledgehammer of deleting the NGC folder. It wipes out all users. Completely unsupported, it leaves orphaned keys polluting your directory, and it corrupts your ACLs. Looking at this, it's a total no-brainer. Certutil is the only safe and supported path. And finally, Section 6, Automating the Fix, Fleet-Wide Remediation. Now, doing this manually is fine for a one-off ticket, sure, but for 1,000 endpoints, we need to elevate this to an invisible, automated Intune policy. Using Intune Proactive Remediations, you can fix this automatically in the background. Step 1, you go into your Intune Admin Center, under Devices, and find Proactive Remediations. Step 2, upload a detection script that checks if the services are running and if the NGC key exists. Step 3, upload the remediation script, which calls that certutil command we just talked about. But look at Step 4. I really need you to mentally highlight Step 4 right now. Run this script using the logged-on credentials must be set to yes. If you leave this as the default system context, the script deletes the system container, not the user's broken container, and your support ticket will immediately reopen. It absolutely has to run as the logged-on user. When you do all of this correctly behind the scenes, you can use a quick command line tool called dsregcmd to view the proof of health. You'll see that NGC set returns to yes. You'll see a brand new NGC key ID populated. And if you check the services, both Microsoft Passport services will be running. And honestly, the best part? Because you use the supported pipeline, that old public key in EntraID naturally ages out and gets safely replaced by the new one. 0 orphans, 0 collateral damage. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. What is your very first move going to be the next time you're on a forum or browsing a Slack channel and someone tells you to just delete the NGC folder? Hopefully, you'll stop them dead in their tracks. It's time to abandon the bad habits, leave the sledgehammer in the shed, and champion the automated certutil method. That wraps up our explainer on the NGC container. Thank you so much for hanging out and learning with me today, and I highly encourage you to go grab those detection and remediation scripts to secure your own fleet. See you next time.